Here are the 5 most common concepts that people get wrong on the real estate exam. My name is Robert Rico, and I've helped thousands, I'm talking thousands of people pass the real estate exam and get their license. In this video, I'll teach you everything you need to know to ace the trickiest parts of the exam, even in your doggone sleep. Math and proration are the most common missed concepts. So let me explain what that even means. Now here's what proration is. When a house sells, some bills get split between the seller and the buyer. Now think about this for a second. Think about property taxes, right? The seller owned the home for part of the year. The buyer owns it for the rest of the year. So at closing, we split the tax bill based on who owned the home, when? Yeah, on which days they were living in it. That split is called proration. Sounds complicated? It's not. It's not, because every proration question has 3 steps. Think about it, 3 steps. I call them amount, direction, and convention. Step 1, amount. Now first find the daily cost. Take the yearly bill and divide it by the number of days in the year. Then multiply by how many days that person owned the home. Step 2, direction. Debit versus credit. Who owes the money? A debit means you owe it. A credit means you get it. The same amount is a debit to one person and a credit to the other. Step 3, convention. What rules does the questions give you? Think about this for a second. Slow it down. 2 big ones. First, do they want you to use a 365-day year? Second, are taxes paid in arrears or in advance? Now, paid in arrears just means you pay after you've already used the time. Most property taxes work that way. So at closing, the seller gets debited for the days they owned it. Here's an example. Let's slow this down for a second. Yearly taxes are $36.50, and the closing is June 15th. Use a 365-day year. First, the daily cost. $3,650 divided by 365 is $10 a day. The seller owned the home from January 1st to June 15th. That's about 165 days. Well, that times $10 is $1,650. So the seller owes $1,650. That's a debit to the seller and a credit to the buyer. Boom, done, finito. Topic 2 is agency. Now this is about who the agent works for and what they owe that person. The whole thing comes down to one word. One word. Are you a client or a customer? The core idea here is this. A client is the person the agent actually works for. The agent owes them everything. Loyalty, honesty, keeping their secrets, the works, everything. A customer is someone the agent deals with, but does not work for. That's the difference. A customer only gets honesty and the facts. No secret keeping. The part people get wrong here, here's the one people miss. A buyer walks into an open house. They start chatting with the agent and they say, I'd pay way more than the asking price, but that agent is listing the property. That agent is the listing agent. They work for the seller. So that buyer is just a customer. And the agent has to tell the seller what the buyer said. The buyer thought they had someone on their side, but guess what? They didn't. You with me? They work for the seller. You'll also see the agent types. What type of agents are out there? Now, a special agent handles one job, like selling one house. A general agent handles ongoing work, like a property manager. A universal agent can do almost anything for you. Just match the description with the name. Puffing versus misrepresentation. One more pair. Puffing is opinion. Best view in town. That's fine. It's just selling. Misrepresentation is stating a false fact. That's different. Like saying the roof is new when it isn't. That's not cool. That's not fine. Even by accent, you can't say that. You're lying. Now, topic 3 is financing. Mortgage versus deed of trust. 2 documents do almost the same job, but use totally different words. This is where people get lost, so pay attention here. When you borrow money for a house, there are really 2 things. First, the note. The note is your promise to pay the money back. That's why we call it the promissory note. It's the actual debt. Second, the security instrument. That's the document that puts your house up as backup, as collateral. If you don't pay, the lender can take the house, man. That's called foreclosure. That security document is either a mortgage or a deed of trust. Now let's talk about the OR and the E mix-up. The OR and the EE. Now the part that gets people is this. But I want to pump the brakes a little bit. A mortgage has two parties, the mortgagor, OR, and the mortgagee, EE. They sound almost the same, so remember this. The mortgagor, OR, equals borrower. The word ending in OR is the borrower. The one ending in EE is the lender. The OR gives. The EE receives. Deed of trust. A deed of trust does the same job, but has three parties, not two. You got the trustor, that's the borrower, the beneficiary, that's the lender, and the trustee, a neutral third person who holds the title until the loan is paid off. So, mortgage, two parties. Deed of trust, three. Bonus material here. Anytime you see the beneficiary is always the one that lent the money. The beneficiary, in this case, is the lender. They're gonna benefit one way or the other, either by getting paid the payments or getting the house back when they foreclose on the property. Lien versus title theory. Now you might also see lien theory versus title theory. In the lien theory state, the borrower keeps the title and the lender just holds a lien. Makes sense. In the title theory state, the lender holds the title until you pay it off. That's it. It just changes who holds the paper. That's important. Last, don't mix these up. RESPA is about the closing process and settlement cost. TILA, the Truth in Lending Act, is about the cost of the loan, your interest rate, and your APR. RESPA is the process. TILA, the price. Topic 4, how two people or more can own a property together. There are a few ways, and the exam loves the small differences, so you want to be careful with this one. The two main ones are this. The first one, tenancy in common. Each person owns a share. When one owner dies, their share goes to their heirs, whoever's in the will. Second one is joint tenancy. That's different. This one has the right of survivorship. That means if one owner dies, their share goes to the other owners, not the heirs. The deal is this. That one has 4 unities, and it's called PITT, P-I-T-T. To have a joint tenancy, you need 4 things to match. I want you to remember PITT. Whether it's Brad Pitt, armpit, I don't care. P-I-T-T. Possession, interest, time, and title. All 4 owners have to take that title at the same time on the same document with equal shares and equal rights to use the whole place. If you break even one, the joint tenancy turns into a tenancy in common. The part people get wrong is this. Here's the question. 3 people own a house as joint tenants. One of them sells her share to a stranger. What happens? That stranger is now a tenant in common. But the other 2, they're still joint tenants with each other. The sale only broke the unities for the person who left. The other 2 keep survivorship between them. Easy way to remember it, in common, you can will it. In joint, you can't. Survivorship wins. 5, easements. Last topic, here we go, easements. An easement is the right to use someone else's land for a reason, like a path across your neighbor's lot to reach the road. The confusing part is 2 types that sound alike. Sounds like a mouthful, actually. Not a big deal. Here's how to keep them straight. You ready? Appurtenant versus engross. Now first easement, appurtenant. This one involves 2 pieces of land next to each other, right? One piece benefits, that's the dominant land. Hey, I'm dominant, you can't stop me, I benefit. One piece is burdened. That's the servient land. They gotta serve it up. And here's the key. It runs with the land. So if either property sells, the easement stays. Second easement engross. Easement engross. This one benefits a person or a company, not a piece of land. The best example is the utility company running power lines across the yard. There's no second property that benefits, just them. 2 more pairs, 2 fast ones. Easement by prescription means someone earns the right to use your land by using it openly for years. Adverse possession is bigger. That's when someone actually earns ownership of the land the same way. Prescription, you get to use it. Adverse possession, you get to own it. Pretty nice. Now that you know the hardest parts, make sure you have a study plan. It's important. I share a study plan that gets you exam ready in the next 30 days in this video right here, right there. Remember, study long, study wrong. In other words, don't overthink it.